What's up, everyone? Got another install for the 2020 Road Glide. Let's see what's in these boxes real quick. Alright, we'll do the whole finger snap. Oh, there you go. Got the Arlen Ness 49mm +2 gold tubes, as well as the +2 Legend drop-in cartridges, 49mm also. Also got a Drag Specialty fork rebuild kit. So the rear's already done with the Legend 14-inch. So once those are installed on the front, we should be +2, front and rear. So everyone's got their own opinion. There's a million different choices out there as far as suspension. You got the Legend guys, you got the Oleans, you got the Progressive, etc., etc. Why I chose Legend? Just at the time when I picked the rear, it seemed like a good deal. The reviews I saw were good. Yeah, there's negative reviews also, but that goes for everything. So I just went with the Legend suspension. Extremely happy with the rear. What we're gonna do is start the disassembly. Fender will be coming off, wheel obviously, brake calipers. I have quite a bit of clearance for the top portion up on the triple tree as far as handlebars goes. Every bike's different. If you have stock bars or more of a lower pro set of bars, you might have a difficult time getting an Allen or socket in there for clearance reasons. I'll hit on all the bolt sizes, Allens, any tools that are needed for this job. That way if you're watching this video, you can at least get all that stuff lined up. Make sure you have everything before you start. If you didn't see my last video, I did the front crash bar and the rear bags crash bar. Check that video out. Nice quality, easy install, well worth it in my opinion. Let's get to it. Starting with the fender, this is a Hoffman Designs carbon fiber fender. So this is supplied hardware. I can't remember what the factory bolts were, but these are 1/4 inch Allens, and then the nuts on the back side are 1/2 inch. So obviously if you don't have this fender and you have the factory fender, the hardware can be a little different. For the most part, the touring bikes, they have a lot of similarities. They are different in some areas. They have some different features and different things that need to be removed. So unless you're doing a 2020 Road Glide special like this bike, it can be a little different. But for the most part, you have the clamp bolts. They're gonna all be similar to some degree. Bolt size probably gonna be identical. Amount of bolts needed, again, could be a little different. This is just giving you a general idea as far as doing the drop-in Legend cartridges. So we'll start with, you need the bike lift. You need some sort of way to lift the front end of the bike up. All right, moving on to the calibers. You're gonna need a 10mm 12-point socket. Works just fine for these. Get yourself a couple Crown Royal bags. They work really good. Put the calibers in. You can hang them from really anywhere. Just keeps the pressure off the actual brake lines. You can use grocery bags if you don't have the Crown Royal bags. You can use a lot of things. You're gonna grab your 15/16 socket, get this axle nut off here. Make sure you leave this pinch bolt here still tight. It'll help hold the axle shaft in place. That way you don't have to put a screwdriver through that hole. The Allen is gonna be a 6mm. Once you get that loose, you can come over here and get this Allen broken free. If you're just taking the tire off or something, you wouldn't have to pull the Allen out all the way. But because we're taking the forks off, that bolt runs through the lower leg, right where we need to get to the underside Allen to release all the internals of the fork tube. All right, moving on to the drain bolts. You need a 12mm Allen. And a lot of people are recommending to go out and get, a 3-inch long one, something along these lines, 2-3 inches. But the underside hole is rather big. So as long as you have an extension, it will actually fit up in there. So before you go and buy one, you can run out into your garage and check and see if you have a 12 millimeter that will fit up in there. That's probably a less common Allen in an Allen set. Usually they stop around 10 or 11. And then moving on to your next Allen, 19 millimeter. Most people aren't gonna have that in the garage, so you might have to go get that. But that is for the stock caps. Some people take the forks off and do this in a fork vise. I don't have the luxury of having one of those, so what I'm gonna do is try to benefit as much as I can with the actual forks being attached to the bike. So I'll drain the tubes while it's on the bike. I didn't catch if the copper washer came out with it or not. You don't want to double stack copper washers if you end up getting a new one. Me personally, I always look at copper washers, no matter what application it is, as a one-time use. All right, grab your 1/4 inch Allen. You're gonna want to get the top 1/4 inch Allen out on both sides. They actually do clamp down on the tubes enough, which actually pinch on the threads internally of your top cap. So you probably wouldn't even be able to get the cap off unless you loosen these. You still have the lower ones that are holding the forks into the bike, so you can still work up here. All I really want to do is break this cap loose while it's still on the bike. So it'll make it easier when I work on the bench. All right, this is where you're gonna grab your 19 millimeter Allen. I know we talked about it a little bit earlier, but again, this is gonna be the not so commonly found in your average garage. So go ahead and pre-order one of those before you start digging into the bike. Let your handlebars turn and actually hit the stops. You don't technically need to break these free on the bike, but I personally just think that it helps out. All right, gonna take the remainder of the 4 out of the 6 clamp bolts off the triple trees out. Still the 1/4 inch. Alright, I just laid the fork down. I got a sheet laid over it. Drape it down here. I'm going to kneel on it. That way I can kneel on the sheet and the fork tube. And that was it. Some people are freaking out about it. I get it. If you're not prepared for it or do something about it, you're going to have an issue. There's a million ways to do it. Just do what you think is going to be the most common sense and go from there. I'll try to hold it with a little bit less strength so you can maybe see it jump a little bit more. See if the wrench kind of bucks out of my hand a little bit. See right there, I mean, I'm still obviously holding it, but that was a lot less force of me holding it, and it jumped a lot more. All right, I'm gonna start disassembling the tubes. A little keeper ring in there, big tool or flathead will work. Out. So this part, you're just going to kind of use the tube itself as a slide hammer and basically slide it out of the lower. It's going to be a little hard because of how tall my toolbox is, but see how it goes. And there we go. There's the inside. I don't know if you guys can see. Alright, moving on to the Arlen Ness tubes. What you're going to want to do, and it's totally up to you, some do it, some don't. You're going to want to cross hatch. It's not going to be enough to see with the naked eye, so don't sweat it. Some people are worried about the coating being thinned out and over time wearing off or fading out in the sun. Me personally, I don't want that to happen, but I'd take performance over looks any day. So if this means it's gonna fade a little bit over time, so be it. I do believe red Scotch-Brite is somewhere in the 300 to 400 range as far as grit goes, and it sounds aggressive, but it's not. We're gonna start here. Just put good pressure on it. There you go. There's no crazy scratches or anything. All right, go ahead and grab your oil, 20 weight. Got a little bit in the cap already for assembly. Go ahead and grab your 3/4 inch wide brass bushing. Get some oil on it, inside, outside. That's gonna go on the lower portion of the fork leg. There's a groove section here for it. Snaps right into place. Now you're gonna grab your 1/2 inch wide bushing. It's also got a little slit in it. Again, you don't want to pry these things. Get some oil on it. Do this one for the top. You're gonna want to grab your spacer. Go ahead and get some oil on that. Get that into place. Now you're gonna do your fork seal. So, fork seal, I don't know if you can see that. You want to do numbers up or letters. To help prevent from damaging the fork seal while installing it, just cut the corner of a Ziploc bag off. Just helps protect around the sharp edges on the top of these tubes. That tube is ready for now. All right, moving on to the cartridges. The factory setting is 0, as in 0 turns of preload. So there's technically 4 adjustments. There's 0, 1, 2, and 3. So 0 adjustment, the weight range is 100 pounds to 249 pounds. So number 1, which is 1 turn complete, is 250 to 349 pounds. 2 complete turns is 350 to 450 pounds. And then 3 complete turns is 450 plus pounds. So because I fall into the between 100 and 249 pound category, I'm not gonna turn this at all. But if you end up needing to turn it, there is a flat spot on the threads. It's only on one side of the shaft. That is where your set screw needs to end up. So 1 turn and your set screw will realign with that flat spot, and that is 1 turn. Obviously you're gonna do it to the right, so you're tightening the spring. So even though I'm not gonna do any adjustments on the preload, I don't know if they Loctite it from the factory. So you're gonna take your 1/8 inch Allen for your adjustments if you need to, or if you want to do what I'm doing. I'm going to take the set screw out and just put a dab of Loctite on it and put it back in. I'm not going to do any adjustments. Alright, next thing, grab your rebound spring. They're calling these the oil lock pieces. So go ahead and get a little bit of oil on them. Alright, you want to grab one of your lower legs, make sure there's nothing in there. You're going to take one of these oil lock pieces, slide it down in there. There is a notched groove, circular groove, that'll kind of accept that oil lock perfectly. So you want to make sure that's lined up good. Grab one of your fork legs. Take one more look at that oil lock. Slide your fork seal down. You can get it most of the way with your fingers, and you'll know if you have it in far enough or not because of the what they call the wire clip. If you don't have it in far enough, there's a groove for these to go into, and they won't be able to get into the groove if it's not far enough down. So grab this guy, your wire clip. Start it with your fingers. Just gotta be careful when you're checking these wire clips. You don't want to slip off or put too much pressure and just smoke a hole right through your fork seal. I'm gonna tip this sideways. Some Loctite on your bolt. Make sure your copper washer's on there and the old one is out on this tube as well. Okay, got that started by hand. Alright, we're gonna do this lower bolt. This 12mm at 30 foot-pounds also. All right, these things call for 13 ounces each. So you need to do this a couple times throughout the fill process. You can feel it starting to take in the oil. All right, cycle it a few times. This is going to be the 19mm Allen. You're going to put this guy at 25 foot-pounds. I always thread chase everything, clean the threads up. These are the clamp bolts for the triple trees for the tubes. So I'm going to clean those up as well as clean up the actual threads in the triple tree. It's a 5/16 by 18. Alright, go ahead and clean out the section where the tubes slide in. Just use a steel wool, double or triple, or even Scotch-Brite. Just get all the gunk out of there. I already have the threads cleaned out on all 6 clamp bolts. And I have the 2 lowers on each side already installed with some blue Loctite. So I'm going to throw the fork tubes in there, get them flush where I need them up top, start clamping everything down, torquing it, and then I'll do the top caps. I'm going to do a time lapse. There's really no need to do all this step by step. You've seen it come apart. Read your manual. There it is, complete. Don't mind the fog lamp wiring. That was for the original bar. I gotta redo that. Like, comment, subscribe. Later.